What do you think is one of the biggest challenges for blind people, besides getting maybe from the public that they could not do the same thing as somebody who sees 100%?
Well, if you become a blind person, there are three things that you must have. One is the belief to have faith that you have the capacity to contribute. If you have that, everything else gets to be much, much easier. If you don't have that, you can't talk yourself into doing the things that you might otherwise do. So faith in yourself is first. Secondly, you have to have the ability to communicate, to get and manage information. There are certain ways to do it. Braille is one of them. Managing computer technology is one of them, and the other technologies that are out there. Getting and managing information. The third is finding a way to get around from place to place, to go where you want to go, when you want to go there, with ease and with grace. Those things you must have. Then there are a bunch of other things that come later, but faith in yourself is first.
Yeah. I have a very dear friend who is actually 100% blind, and so I got to see a little bit his experience. And I think for him, one of the biggest challenges was to get to and from the workplace, like the transportation, because he works 100% at the Department of Corrections in Richmond, Virginia. So he really does everything. He takes the phones, he works on the computer, he's at the front desk, so he's an enormous help and as asset to the Department of Corrections. But his biggest challenge was really the transportation.
Transportation is a major element,
Yeah.
but being able to travel is part of what you need to learn as a blind person. Of course, you need to learn that as a sighted person too, but there are a bunch of techniques already established in our society for sighted people to use, and some of them do not apply to the blind. And even if they do, a lot of blind people don't have faith that they do to begin with.
All right. Another question is like, what would be typical jobs for blind people that you would say like that they would not have any challenges with?
I've never met a job that didn't have challenges. So I'm not sure I can answer it in that way, except this. Blind people have the same jobs that other people have. Some people have sometimes said to me, why don't you make a list? Well, it's hard to make a list, and it is because blind people are doing so many things. Blind people are farmers. Now, how does a blind person do farming? Well, I've never done enough farming to know, but there are blind people who are farmers. Blind people are lawyers. Now, as it happens, I'm a lawyer, so I know how a blind person does that. I've done a lot of that. Blind people are teachers. I've met a bunch of teachers and hired some teachers, and I have some idea how that's done. And I've been taught by some blind teachers, so I can give you some examples. Blind people are folks who work in security. At least two blind people I know worked for a while with the CIA. Why? Well, they had enough background to know how to manage the information that the United States needed from the Central Intelligence Agency. It's hard to give a list. I could try. It might be easier to give a list of the jobs that blind people cannot do easily. It's hard for blind people to fill out pieces of paper that are unpredictable. Can you fill out a check? Yes. There are methods that can be used to fill out a check. Those spaces are predictable. But if you're expected to fill out pieces of paper where the blanks are unpredictable and the questions are unknown, then it's hard to do that. I can tell you this. Are there methods to get at it? Well, there are if the methods are routinized, but if what you want to do is get somebody to read paper that you can't easily get at and it's a routine matter, then probably that's not a good job for a blind person. On the other hand, there are thousands upon thousands of jobs that blind people can do. Can you read the computer screen? Sure. Can you read paper that is printed in predictable ways? Yes. You do it with some of this technology that I talked about earlier. How many things can a blind person not do? Today, a blind person can't drive. If driving is truly an essential part of a job, that cuts a blind person out. I hesitate to bring this up. Sometimes people think I'm exaggerating. Can a blind person be a doctor? Well, there are some. What exactly do they do? Well, I don't know enough about it to say precisely. I've heard them talk about their jobs. One of them runs a rehabilitation hospital in New York. One of them was a baby doctor. He, since I met him, died, so he doesn't do that anymore. The rehabilitation hospital director is still alive. What kinds of jobs can you not do as a blind person? Give me one, and if you find a blind person who wants to do it enough, we might be able to think up a way to do it. At the moment, driving is very difficult for the blind, and I wouldn't recommend it. Same is true for airplane operations, pilots, although one day we're going to solve both of those tasks and get it so that blind people can do them.
Thank you very much. Do you have the feeling that maybe sometimes blind people could do the job, but the place where they apply to, that maybe they don't trust that that person could do that job, maybe that the blind person does not get the job because of that ignorance?
It happens all the time. Every blind person who's ever been in the job market will have faced that question at some time or another, unless the blind person is very limited in applying for jobs. For the first job that I got, I applied to 130 places before I got a job offer. Maybe other people had the same trouble, but my observation was that they did not. When I graduated from law school, my colleagues got jobs fairly quickly. I spent a lot of time getting the first one that I got.
Thank you very much.
Sir, in the last 2 or 3 years, what would you say are the biggest advancements for the blind, either from a technology perspective or otherwise?
Well, there's something that hasn't happened yet that is supposed to happen any time. The Google company has digitized millions of books. They have promised that in settling the outstanding lawsuit that is against them, they will make all of the books accessible to the blind. I think that they will do it. I think that they have the right type of people and the right type of technology to do it. And if they do it, it will make literally millions of volumes available to the blind that never have been. It will be the biggest change for the blind, I think, in my lifetime.
Wow, that's significant.